Hello, everybody. Welcome to Around the Jungle. My name's Evan. I'm joined with Zach. Today, we are going to be talking about the absolute embarrassing massacre that was Sunday night's game against the Minnesota Vikings, where the Bengals lost 48-10, and the worst loss in franchise history by far. And at this point, it's funny just how bad that performance was, and how bad the Bengals currently are. We were talking about, we had a little bit of hope, after last week that, maybe there could be some life, and that's completely gone, absolutely destroyed. No hope at all. And yeah, so Zach, I know you're dying laughing over there. What were your thoughts on this abysmal game that I want to get out of my head as quickly as possible?
I mean, like you said, it is laughable. I was laughing on Sunday and I'm laughing still now. I mean, that was just like that was one of the worst performances I've ever seen in a football game, particularly offensively. I turned it off at halftime. I mean, we like that that was a that was a historically bad offensive performance. It was so bad. What'd you say? Chase Brown averaged 0.3 yards per carry on like 7 carries.
He had 10 carries for 3 yards and averaged 0.3 a carry. I didn't know that was humanly possible to average under 1 yard a carry.
He had 10 carries for 3 yards.
Like, that is awful.
Yeah, that's really, really bad. Obviously, we had 7 turnovers. I mean, how does they even like how do you have that kind of
Well,
performance?
actually, they fumbled the ball 5 times, but I think there's only three that were lost.
Okay, so we had 5 turnovers then.
5 total turnovers,
Yeah.
but they fumbled the ball 5 times, which is still a problem, but they didn't recover all 5 of them.
How does that happen? I mean, how like I don't understand how that happens out of an NFL team. Like, how does an NFL team come out there on a Sunday and perform that badly? And I mean, the Vikings are decent, but like that was one of the worst things that I've ever witnessed. I mean, that was terrible. I mean, yeah. It's at that point where I'm just like, all right, clean house, restart, completely restart this franchise. I mean, the ownership's terrible. The front office is terrible. The coaching was terrible. The players were terrible. There wasn't one redeeming quality on this football team for Sunday. Everything was awful. Everything was just a complete and absolute like just dump. It was terrible. I mean, and to be truthfully honest with you, I think at this point you trade Trey Henderson. He's gonna walk next year for nothing, so you might as well trade him. I mean, our season's over. We're a top 5 pick after that game. I mean, that was like Marvin Lewis level bad, but worse.
That was like the 0-16 Browns bad.
We got beat. It was 48-3 in the fourth quarter of that game. Are you kidding me right now? We had scored 3 points throughout 3 quarters of football. We had not even gotten field goal range more than once. Like, I really don't have a lot of thoughts on that game. To be honest with you, it was like, that was just a train wreck from every conceivable angle. Nothing was good in that game. There was not one good thing in that game. To be honest with you, I think that's a film that you don't even watch. I think you show up the next day, you get your like, post game workout in and you just go back home and recover. I don't even think you watch that film. I think you throw that film in the trash immediately. And I think that you have to move forward throughout the rest of this year with a different standard. And that standard is to just not preferably have the first overall pick. Yeah, that was one of the worst things I've ever seen. That was one of the worst Bengals games that I've ever witnessed. I was I, I was baffled by what I saw, and I was laughing hysterically.
Yeah, well, I think it was, I'm like 99% sure that that was the largest margin of like a loss in Bengals history with 38
38.
points, which makes sense. But yeah, this was just an absolute disaster of a football game. I mean, fumbling the ball 5 times, were they just like, did they just rub like oil or something all over the football when they were playing, when they were on offense? Like, how in the world do you fumble the ball that many times?
Beats
And
me.
then Jake Browning throws an egregious pick six in the beginning of the game to Isaiah Rodgers, who I guess is, the second coming of Darrelle Revis. He had a 99.9 PFF grade, which has never happened before, because he had a fumble recovery he had a forced fumble, returned it for a touchdown, and a pick six, and another forced fumble. So he just turned into an absolute stud against us.
Like, are we just a joke?
Yes.
Like, I
I know
mean,
last year, and we said this last year, we said, if Joe Burrow isn't on this team wins 4 games, and he's gone for 1 game and we get blown out 48-10. Like, it's that bad. So yeah. But I mean, when the offensive line was better off not even being on the field, considering that Browning got sacked 3 times and Chase Brown averaged 0.3 yards a carry. I didn't know that could happen. I'd probably, if I was in the NFL, I could probably get 0.3 yards a carry. Like if you stick me back there and hand me the ball, I would probably get on 10 carries. I'd probably get 0.3 yards.
I
Like
would like to hope.
that's he almost had 0 yards a carry. That's how bad it was. He legitimately almost had 0 yards a carry.
And he's good. Like, he is a
Yeah.
good running back. I don't understand.
But the run blocking has been so horrible that through 3 games he has 47 carries for 93 yards and a touchdown. He's averaging 2 yards a carry. That's
That
terrible.
Yeah, that is unacceptable.
And then Jake Browning has played 1.5 games and leads the NFL in turnovers. He's thrown 5 picks in 1.5 games. Like, are you kidding me?
How?
Mhm.
Like,
And if you think that's bad, I'm just gonna read you the offensive stats through 3 weeks for the Bengals. All right. 147 rushing yards, which is last in the NFL. They are last in EPA per play, EPA per pass, and EPA per rush. So that's pretty bad. And they have the most turnovers in the NFL. So basically, the offense is abysmal and not even
it is
showing
the
up.
worst
And
offense in
and
the
that was
NFL.
supposed to be the bright side of this team, and they're completely awful. And so I think that goes obviously on the players, but I think that also goes on the play caller, and that's Mr. Zach Taylor. Um, Even though we're 2-1, if he gets fired this year, it will be because of this game. If we suck and they think they have to move on, everybody will look back at this game when he completely lost it because they got absolutely embarrassed.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, the Vikings have a good defense. Brian Flores is very difficult to scheme against because he runs a lot of different, um, coverages and disguises a bunch of stuff and moves his players around. I understand that, but
Yeah.
for you to be like that inefficient is just beyond bad. And Jamar Chase had five for 50. T. Higgins only got targeted twice. Like we had under 200 yards of offense as a team. Like genuinely terrible. And when you're playing against the other team's backup quarterback and Carson Wentz, and he
Yeah.
has as many yards throwing the ball as you do as an entire team, that is
They put
bad.
48 points on the board. Like, are you serious? With a backup quarterback.
Yeah.
I
So I mean, I going back to your statement about trading Trey Hendrickson, might as well. You know, if he's not going to come back and we're just going to suck terribly for the rest of the season, yeah, you might as well try to get something because you're not going to be winning. So it
Mhm.
really doesn't matter. And honestly, that's probably what I would do because if even if they somehow turn this around and win 7 to 8 games or whatever, it doesn't.
We're not making the playoffs, so what does it matter?
Yeah. So I would probably entertain that.
If we can somehow, by some miracle, manage to pull out 4 to 5 more wins this year, we're not going to the playoffs. We're just hurting our draft stock. So you might as well just ship him off. He's gonna walk next offseason for nothing. I mean, after Sunday, we're done. Like that was pretty bad. So I think that any strand of hope that we had for maybe having a salvageable season, maybe making the playoffs, Burrow coming back, after what I saw on Sunday, I mean, I don't even I
Go for
really don't have a
it.
lot of words for what I saw, to be honest with you.
Now, do you think, because knowing football as you do you think that was more of like, all right, the game, like the players just never got off the bus, or do you think it was just, or do you think it's more on the coaching staff that like they were like unprepared and stuff? Because I think when you have that many mental errors of fumbling the ball and stuff like that, that has to come back to something. So what are your thoughts on that
well,
from a coach's
obviously the
perspective?
players didn't get off the bus. I mean, I think that is bigger the I mean, that's probably the biggest part of it. I mean, the players are the guys on the field, obviously. Like, they're the ones that have to show up and actually play the game. So, obviously, I think that was a pretty big part of it. But, on the same hand, in my mind, if you are, if you have a very talented, very good running back who is only averaging 0.3 yards a carry and only touching the football 7 to 10 times, that's unacceptable. You know, that like that's in my mind where it goes on the scheme and the coaching where it's like our offense was just totally inefficient. And it really has been throughout the first 3 weeks, even though we're 2-1, Like our superstar players are not getting the ball as much as they should. They're they're inefficient. I mean, like I said, dude had 0.3 yards a carry, which is, like you said, dang near unheard of. And he only touched the ball what, 7 times?
10 times.
10 times. It's that what are we doing? So in my mind, that's where it falls on the coaching, and it's like, okay, we need to sit down, we need to fix what we do schematically on both sides of the ball. But on the same hand, you could have a really good game plan and very good schematics for offense and defense. And if your players don't show up, you're going to look like dog crap. I think it's both. I think that obviously football is the ultimate team game. Everybody involved has to be on their A game to win. And I think nobody involved was on their A game, players and coaches, obviously. So like I said, in my mind, where it falls on coaching and schematics is kind of where we were looking at when you're averaging 0.3 yards a carry on 10 touches, unacceptable out of the run game. And also, we were watching some of the film beforehand, like that one run play that they gave to Chase Brown, I don't even know what that was. I couldn't even tell you what run scheme that was supposed to be. um,
It was
and then
that poorly
also,
blocked.
yeah, yeah, and then also as far as the passing game goes, we were looking at, this isn't really this year, but this is just last year. I mean, under like Zach Taylor's offense, if we look at last year, like we were looking at before we started filming, I mean, Joe Burrow was sacked 48 times last year, but I mean, he had like 2.5 seconds on average to throw the ball. That should be more than enough time to get the ball out. So in my mind, that means your passing patterns are they're too long. Like you're not like you can't run these passing schemes where you've got guys running 20, 15, 30-yard routes on every play down the field. You don't have time to throw that, you know? So I just think that in my mind, that's where it goes on the coaching. I think it's when the coach, when the coaching, like when the coaches are not setting their players up for the best chance to succeed schematically, or when you're just not giving your best guys the ball. That, in my mind, is where the coaches are at fault, in my personal opinion. But then also the bigger part of it, the bigger part is the players not showing up because coaches can have crappy schemes, and if the players are really, really good and they show up to play, it might still work, you know? So
Yeah.
I think it's both. I really think Sunday was just a combination of both. I mean, I think I said this last week. I think that Zach Taylor needs to sit down and rethink what they do offensively. Uh, I said that last week, and I will stand on that further this week after scoring 3 points in 3 quarters. So that, but also, I mean, obviously the players were not there. Like the players did not get off the bus on that game, obviously, you know.
Yeah. Um, one topic of conversation that I've seen come up a lot after this game is, the reason that Bengals fans and us included had a little bit of hope was because we felt that Jake Browning, could do it, could come in and do enough,
He did in
continue.
23.
Yeah, so I mean, we were right to think that, but through 1.5 games, he leads the league in turnovers and interceptions. So that begs the question: with the news in New York, with Jackson Dart being the starter for the remainder of the season, do you think the Bengals should explore maybe trading for a guy like Jameis Winston or Russell Wilson, or do you think, or some other name, or do you think they should just kind of just put this one in their back pocket and just kind of ride out the season and see what happens?
Well, what I know they're going to do is ride it out and see what happens because I know the Bengals. What they should do, I really don't know, to be honest with you. Because I think it depends on the price of a guy, maybe. Like, obviously, we can't go get Kirk Cousins because he's a $180 million backup, who I don't even think should be the backup. I'm going to throw that in there.
Might not be anymore.
I think that Kirk Cousins should at least be given an opportunity to start again. I'm just going to throw that out there. But anyways, he's too expensive. So I think it would just depend on like what the Giants would be wanting out of Jameis Winston or Russell Wilson. But on the same hand, like to be honest, it's kind of tough because I think that like, if it's me, like if I'm in the front office's shoes, I have to genuinely sit back and think like, okay, like is it really worth taking taking on more money and or giving up draft capital to get a guy who's really just going to be a patch for us at the quarterback spot for the remainder of this year when, to be honest, objectively looking, we're probably not going to really be going anywhere this year anyways. So that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I mean, would I love to see Kirk Cousins come to the Bengals? Yes, but that's just because I really like Kirk Cousins a lot. Jameis Winston, I think Jameis Winston could provide a little bit of a spark, but is it really worth it though? Because it's like I mean, like you said, if we win 7 to 8 games, like, we're not making the play like, I think you have to win at least 10 games to get into the playoffs. Do you think that this team, how we've been playing throughout the first 3 weeks of the season, is a team capable with or without Jameis Winston to win 7 more
Not even
games?
close.
Yeah, so that's why I'm like, I don't know if it's even really worth it, to be honest with you. I mean, I hate to say chalk it up and, lick your wounds and get back at it next summer, but, we're only 3 weeks into the season, but that was pretty bad. That was pretty bad, and it's been pretty bad throughout the first 2 games, and there's just not really a lot to, like, hope in, because like, even, last year and even back in 2022 when we also started out 0-2, last year we started out 0-3, it's like, yeah, we played completely horribly in the first 2, 3, 4 games of the season, but we still had Burrow. We were still healthy. There was still like, okay, like if we can get rolling here, then I think we could make a push, like there was still that, like even last year, like our defense was still terrible and we were not playing well at the beginning of the season, but there was still always that, like, okay, like Burrow's healthy, Burrow's playing well. So if we can work these kinks out and we can get rolling, then it'll be okay and things can kind of, things will get back on track. But I don't really know if we have any reason to believe that at any point this year things are going to get back on track with this team. You know.
Yeah, I'm in the same mindset as you are. I think if they are going to go out and try to trade for, one of these backup quarterbacks, it would depend on the price. I wouldn't want to give up like a third round pick or something for one of these guys. And yeah, I mean, at this point, like let's say you plug and play Russell Wilson. Does Russell Wilson really elevate us too close to a playoff team? I don't believe so. Does Jameis Winston do that? No. They might make it look a little prettier and we might maybe win a couple more games, but I think there's a lot of just fundamental issues outside of the quarterback that is wrong.
It's like
The
lipstick
offensive
on a
line's
pig,
playing
man.
bad. Yeah. Like the offensive line's playing bad. There's no run game. The receivers aren't getting open downfield. Yes, it doesn't hurt that Jake Browning's thrown 5 turnovers. You're not going to win when you turn the ball over that much, but I don't think that bringing either of those guys in is really going to help at all. It just kind of makes it not as horrible to watch.
Yeah.
I would hope.
Yeah. Well, and even
But
like on the other side of the ball, I really don't think our defense has been that much better. Like in my mind, the only difference between our defense this year so far and our defense last year is that unlike last year, we have been able to, just make a play when we needed it. Like we're still getting drove all the way down and back on the field by these teams. We're letting up points left and right. It's just that when the game comes down to it, we might end up getting a fumble or an interception. Like if you look at the numbers, I would be willing to bet you that our defense is really not much better than it was last year. Like we're still getting ran through left and right. It's just unlike last year, we're coming away with an interception at the very end of the game that by some miracle seals it.
yeah.
Like, does that make
So
sense? What I'm saying?
yes, yes. So defensively, we are allowing 30 points a game, which is 26th in the NFL, 60 yards, which is 25th in the NFL. And yeah, so everything is in the bottom half, all in the mid to low 20s. So yeah, it hasn't been much better through 3 weeks. But I will say that, like you said, it is, I guess, good to see that if called on, that they might have a chance of making a big play. I mean, last year, you know, it would be 2 minutes left in the game, and I would just be like, "Well, they're going to score." But
Yeah.
now I think there's like maybe a chance, we get an interception or we get a 4 and we get a turnover on downs. excluding obviously this Vikings game. But I think the defense it still isn't good. It might be a little bit better than it was last year, but I just think this team is just not good. I think this is just showing that Joe Burrow puts this team on his back, and when he's not there, it doesn't look very pretty. And so I find it's very interesting to me how that is. Um, One last thing I wanted to mention to you, all of the talk heading into, the season was, oh, like the Bengals have all their money tied into four players on offense, all this stuff, and we kind of were like, well, you kind of have to pay Joe, you have to pay Jamar, you have to pay T if you want to win. But now looking at, kind of the current state of the team and the future of this team, if you were to go back, do you think you would have given that money to T, or do you think you would have used that elsewhere to try
Hmm.
to improve either the offensive line or the defense in some?
I think I would have probably still given it to T. I mean, I think the ramifications of us not re-signing him would have stretched beyond just losing a good receiver. Like Joe Burrow very clearly was adamant that he returned, and if he did not return, I think he would have been pretty displeased with with this front office. And on the same hand, on the same side of that, this coming summer, those deals are not even going to be the biggest in the NFL because some other receiver, like the salary cap's going to increase, and some other receiver is going to break the bank. So, like, a year or two removed, these deals are going to be still big deals, but not as big as they, look last summer. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like, like, this coming summer, the following summer, like, we should still have some money here to work with to fix defense and, offensive line.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think if I were to do it, I would have paid T because like you said, I think it would have had a lot more ramifications if we didn't do that. And I mean, and I think when you have Joe, Jamar, and T, I think the Bengals should be in any game that they're in when they have those three on the field. Um, and then you look at, I mean, later in that summer, Terry McLaurin, who's 4 years older than T Higgins, he's getting 30 million a year to T's 28. So
Yeah.
even then, it already looked better. I just think, I mean, we stressed this when it happened. Um, and it's just, in the scenario that they've put themselves in is you have to nail the draft. And that's something that the Bengals don't do very well.
Yeah. Never.
And it's too early to tell if they missed on this year's draft, but most of the guys, I mean, Shamar Stewart's hurt, and I think Demetrius Knight and them have been okay, um, but yeah, it just comes back to drafting well, and like you said, the salary cap's going to continue to go up, and I'm sure at some point Burrow will probably restructure his deal.
Mhm.
I'm assuming if the Bengals were to come to him, I would feel like he would be open to that idea.
I would
And then
imagine he would be.
that would create more space to go out and improve the offensive line more and go out and improve the defense. So I get where people are thinking like, oh, like you don't want to have 80% of your cap space tied to four players, but when the three players you have are as good as they are, like
Yeah.
the whole team dynamic, like if T Higgins isn't on the field, Jamar Chase gets more attention. And so the reason that the Bengals offense is so efficient is because you can't double team Jamar because then T is going to be open. You can't double team
Yeah.
T because Jamar is going to be open.
Yeah.
And so if you take one of them out, not to say that either of them get less effective, because when they've played without each other before and have both been really good, but it's just, as a defense, I'm sure as a defensive coordinator, it's probably tough when you see the Bengals on their schedule at full strength to be like, right, how are we going to guard Jamar? How are we going to guard T? How are we going to guard Chase
Yeah.
Brown? How are we going to limit Burrow? Like it's tough for um for the defensive coordinators to probably scheme that up. Now on the offensive coordinator side, he's probably like, oh, this is going to be the easiest game of my season.
Yeah.
But um but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think I would have still done it, and I just think that there just needs to be more urgency, like how we said last week, that there just needs to be more urgency within the coaching staff and the front office to improve this team as quickly as possible, because like we said, um Burrows isn't getting any younger and obviously isn't getting any healthier. So you have to take
Yeah.
advantage of the healthy seasons he has. And so far through the last couple of years, they haven't taken advantage of that.
Yeah, I mean, and I really think the biggest thing is you just gotta hit in the draft. I mean, they put themselves in a tough spot by the way they decided to work these receiver deals. So, you gotta hit on the draft, and that goes back to the front office. You've gotta get guys in that front office that are effective scouts. We have like what, 4 or 5 of them. That's not getting it done. They should be fired. Like we have to have more scouts. GM's got to get his crap figured out. I mean, we got to fix our drafting. I mean, really, we have got to fix our drafting. That is a really big issue. I mean, you've got guys that are going several picks back from where we pick every single year that end up being just like really solid players, and we got to stop that crap. Like, we have to fix how we draft. That's my opinion. But also, I am also getting to the point now where I think our coaches need to take a hard look at themselves too. So,
Yeah.
because this is pretty rough, and like I said last week, we really have done nothing since 2022. I mean, yeah, our
Yeah.
offense put up 50 points a game last year, and we had unbelievable stats and crap, but we didn't even make the playoffs. So we really haven't done anything since 2022. So I think it's about high time that our coaches get their crap figured out. And same
Yeah.
with the front office. Like I said, we got to fix our drafting because it has been abysmal pretty much since the dawn of the Bengals.
I post videos of like of press conferences and stuff, and of Zach talking, and I post them on TikTok and stuff, so you should go check those out. And the ones that I posted recently, I would probably say 90% of the comments are fire Zach Taylor, get this guy out of here. Like this guy sucks as a coach. And so I don't know, are you on that train yet, or are you waiting a little bit longer
I don't
to?
know. I was. What are you? What do you think?
I mean, I was slightly on that train last year, and I think that you know, going back to his comments that we played on here or last week, where he said he's not really going to change anything schematically, and he's just going to kind of keep doing what he's doing because they've had success in the past, but that was 3 or 4 years ago. We're in a "what have you done for me now" league, and
Yeah.
what have you done for me now is go 9-8 the last 3 years, and this year's looking like it's not even going to be 9-8.
Mhm.
And so if they move on from him, I wouldn't be completely upset if they decide to move on from him and hopefully get somebody better. But will they? No, because they don't do that. And I think his contract is out. I think he has another year on his contract, so they could just ride that out. Um, but I'm not on like, all right, get this guy out of my building like immediately. But I think his seat is getting hotter by the week if they keep playing
Yeah,
bad.
I would kind of agree with you. I don't know that I'm necessarily like get him out right now. Like I don't know that I'm there, but I am starting to kind of be like, all right, what's going on here? Like I am starting to like question things with him. Because last year I was in full defense of him, to be honest with you. I was in total defense of him and the entire coaching staff. I don't even think we should have fired Lou Anarumo. I said that earlier today, and look how he's doing with the Colts. So, I mean, I was fully defending this entire staff last year. I still defend Lou Anarumo, but I'm not going to complain as much because I think the guy we got to replace Lou Anarumo is also a very good defensive coordinator. Um, but yeah, Zach Taylor, I don't know. I I'm not defending him as much as I was last year. I will just say that.
We'll just
I
say the seat is getting warmer. We'll just
Yeah.
say that.
I think that's a good way of putting it. I'm not like get him out right now. Like I'm not there, but I would agree that I'm definitely in the spot of like, okay, something's got to change, you know. But I was going to ask you, like, do you think, like, opinions aside, like, do you think that he will get fired after this year? Like, say we go 6-10. I think we're looking at 6 to 7 wins with this team, probably. Say we go 6-10. Do you think he's out?
Knowing the organization, no, because Marvin Lewis overstayed his welcome by a long shot, and he had some really bad years.
Do you
And
think
so
that they've kind of learned or no?
well, considering the track record of this organization, they don't tend to learn from their mistakes.
No, they definitely don't.
So,
But they have been doing things a little differently. Like they
yeah,
did make Joe Burrow the highest paid player. They did make Jamar the highest paid receiver. So like they
that is
are
true.
doing things a little bit differently, even if it is like just absolutely begrudgingly. You know, like you
Yeah,
have to just like fight tooth and nail to get anything out of these guys. But at the end of the day, they do end up doing things a little differently. I think. You
yeah,
know.
that's true. I would say
So
there's a chance. I don't know if the chance would be super high, but I would say that there would be a chance, I mean, I think if you look at it and you look at it from an outside perspective and say, okay, we have a generational quarterback, we have a generational wide receiver, we have T. Higgins, who's top 10, top 15 wide receiver. We have Chase Brown as a dang good running back. We've invested in the offensive line, and we've done all this stuff, and we're just churning out 9-8 seasons or worse, and our franchise quarterback's out again, and something has to change. And so I think, in the NFL, most of the times when things have to change, the blame falls on the coach. And so I could see a world where they end up being like, kind of how it's a what have you done for me lately league. And what Zach Taylor's done for us lately is, not make the playoffs. And with the
nine
team,
and eight, nine
with
and
the
eight, maybe
players
6-10.
that we have, you should be making the playoffs year in and year out, and that just hasn't been happening. And so
Yeah,
I think that there is a possibility, and like I said, I wouldn't completely be shocked, and I wouldn't completely be against if they did that. If there was a candidate out there that would be good, obviously, and could come in and immediately
that's the other
make an
thing. I don't really
impact.
know who would be on the market for us to get. You know, I mean, I guess
Yeah,
Mike
I mean, there's
McDaniel
always
market.
there's always there's always coordinators and guys that come up,
Yeah, that is true.
that'll
Yeah, I
probably
guess there's
be.
always somebody.
And there's always coaches that get fired too. So
Yeah, yeah. There's always somebody, I guess. But I mean,
yeah,
I don't know. It's all like there's definitely a case against him that is becoming stronger. um, but I can't help but think like the problem runs deeper than the coaching. I think the problem truly is the front office and the ownership and the organization as a, like I truly think the deepest like issue with this team is the front office. Um so I can't help but think it doesn't it almost doesn't matter as much what kind of coach you get in there because it just it's really hard as a coach to work with a lot of crap behind the scenes. So it's like, I don't know. I just like I said, the case for him getting the boot is becoming stronger. I agree, but I also just can't help but think, like I was saying last year, that the problem is a lot deeper than the coaching. And a new one isn't really going to fix that, because it's the front office.
yeah.
I don't know.
Which we are in agreement with that. But that's gonna wrap it up for this episode. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to like and subscribe if you did, and we'll be back next week, continuing to talk about how bad this Bengals team is, as they play the Denver Broncos on Monday night prime
Oh
time.
gosh.
So they're gonna bless the nation's TVs, I'm sure. Uh, but
With a comedy show.
yeah, but hopefully it's not as bad as Sunday. But
I'm
that's gonna wrap it
starting
up for
Bo Nix in
us.
fantasy this week.
I would. I would. Um, but thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys in the next one.